Southeast Arizona is in the wheelhouse for us, in the sense that we've got 9 operations in the southwest of the United States. We've got a long history in Morenci. That district has been around since the early 1900s and before. And the Lone Star deposit's really along the lines of that overall geologic trend.
Lone Star is a tremendous asset. For one, it allows us to stay in the region here in Safford. It continues to further develop the ore body that's present, and then it gives us the opportunity to open it up for a much larger sulfide opportunity down the road.
There's a long history at Lone Star. It actually dates back to the 1960s, when some of the previous owners had that deposit. They were doing some various testing over time to try and understand the deposit. One of the challenges with Lone Star historically has been it's a massive resource, a massive deposit, but relatively low grade. And so as you looked at it in isolation, it was a challenge to become an economically viable project. But when we were in the process of developing the Safford district, looking at Dos Pobres and San Juan, and then the natural progression was into Lone Star, really because you now had facilities in place that reduced the capital burden associated with the Lone Star project and allowed you to leverage those things that were installed. And therefore, it kind of bridged the gap of the funding required, if you will. In addition to, copper prices have changed over time, and the copper market in general over the last several years has been more robust, if you will, and that helped shore up the financial viability of the project.
The existing infrastructure is very important because it precludes us from having to spend that money again to duplicate something that's already in place. So, right off the top, we're probably saving $400, $500, $600 million in not having to duplicate that.
So what makes Safford a little unique is we're able to use most of the existing processing plant to process the material. Really, it's a new mine itself, and it's a new leach pad.
The Safford team worked over 1.7 million hours and had no lost time incidents on this project. And there were a lot of contractors and Freeport employees working together to accomplish this. And while we always set out with this goal in mind, they really have stood out in the industry with the work that they did and what they achieved. And so I'm really proud of all that proactive work that I know went into it, and it does take a lot to be able to achieve something like this.
As you're trying to come down the home stretch of getting the project, over the finish line, to be thrown a curveball such as COVID really caused the team to step back and think about, okay, what are the things we need to have in place to manage our way through this? Yeah, you go through contingency plans, this could happen, that could happen, but a world pandemic is not on the list of contingency plans that you necessarily normally go through. And I think the other thing that's important to note is we've got a medical director, and he was intimately involved in helping develop some of the protocols that allowed us to operate in the middle of all this stuff. And so in combination with the operations, in combinations with our local communities, and in combination with all of the operating folks, we were able to come up with plans that allowed us to be confident that we were protecting our people, protecting our communities, and then working on how we protected our business.
I think Safford represents a tremendous opportunity for Freeport. Again, it keeps us in the district. It keeps us close to an operating site such as Morenci, a large site. We get tremendous support from the community. Our stakeholder engagement here in the valley is very strong. We attend quarterly meetings where we meet with local leadership within the community. Their feedback remains, very consistent, very positive, very upbeat. They're aware of what our long-term opportunities are, and we work together whenever there might be snags or things that we can improve. They provide feedback to us, and we're prompt in responding to those issues.
Freeport-McMoran is committed to being a responsible producer wherever we operate around the world. Included in that commitment is our commitment to achieving the copper mark at all of our copper operations over the next few years. The copper mark is the first and only responsible production framework for copper producers. It commits copper producers to continual improvement over time at its sites, and it includes 32 environmental, social, and governance criteria. What that means is that the copper mark has 32 criteria that are related to the environment, social, and governance. That includes things like health and safety, protecting the environment, and working closely with all of our stakeholders on a routine basis. We're proud to say that we've now achieved it at 5 of our locations globally. Safford operations, which we're very proud of and believe to be an excellent example of responsible copper production, is scheduled to go through the process in the fall. And we hope to report back that we've achieved it by the end of the year.
Well, I'm really impressed at the fact that this is a very clean project. There's no trash that I see blowing around. The dust abatement is in place. There's no no emissions of any kind. Everything is clean, and the desert that isn't being mined is still pretty pristine. The same quality that I remember as a kid coming out and walking in the foothills.
I think there's a lot of good benefits coming out of this mine here. Every time you see acid trucks or semi trucks with equipment coming in, that's money for somebody else's pocket. It not only affects this valley, it affects the whole state.
Sure. Well, to see Lone Star open up and know that we have that continued operation and continued payroll and continued benefit to our community, and with many decades possibly in the future, is a big boon to our economy.
And long term, we see even with some volatility in copper prices and mining operations, we see a long term stability and a benefit to our community. We've heard hints that the size of the deposit is large, and it's going to be sustainable over a long period of time, and that's good for our valley, for the people who work here.
I've always kind of looked for a place to be employed, for my future. That way I can keep providing for my family. So I wanted to make sure that there was quite a bit of years left here, hoping to retire here. Knowing that this place does have a future and a lot more years to go was very important to me.
I think Safford, it was a bit unique because we were always, when San Juan's done, this place is shutting down and we'll be through mining here. And you put Lone Star out there, and you got the trust of the leadership of the company to implement a plan to sustain Safford, to sustain our operation for another 25 years, and the people see that, and they felt empowered by the trust that we were shown to make this happen, and they didn't want to let anybody down, and so they worked their tails off to try and to complete the mine plan ahead of schedule and safely and deliver on what we promised we would do.
The team there has done a great job of taking what we originally thought from a concept perspective and improving on that, even just on the oxide. So when we started Lone Star, the goal was to stack 75,000 tons a day. Well, the team there has really looked at how do I improve that efficiency and that productivity, and now they're planning on 90,000 tons a day. So there's some incremental things that are going to allow us to continue to grow at Lone Star as we go forward. The real big opportunity for us is around the sulfide, and how do we tap into that significant resource that's there. So we're going to be spending some time and effort over the next year to 18 months to understand better what that looks like and what are our opportunities and what would be the potential time frames to get that from a concept into a project that we would then be able to take further and turn from just a concept into an actual project.
Yep, never stops. We'll constantly be trying to increase our throughput. Our goal is to fill the tank house and maximize the copper production at Safford. Future's bright. It's a copper color.